Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another video. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you will be updated on all my future progress. So as I said in my last live stream, reducing fractions to lowest terms deserves its own video. So this live stream is going to be focused exclusively on reducing fractions to lowest terms. So our first example problem is 2/10. I'm going to reduce that fraction to lowest terms. So the quickest, most effective way I know to reduce fractions to lowest terms is you divide both the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. So, first things first, our denominator is 10, so I'm going to list all the factors of 10, list all the factors of our denominator. Then I'm going to list all the factors of the numerator. And the greatest common factor, the biggest number between both the numerator and the denominator, is what we have to divide by to reduce the fraction to lowest terms. So the only factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Now the factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. So looking at the factors, we're not selecting the biggest factor, we're selecting the greatest common factor. Now the biggest factor between both of these numbers is 10, but 10 is not a factor of 2. 2 is a factor of 10, but 10 is not a factor of 2. 5 is the second biggest common factor. 5 is the second biggest factor, but 5 is not a common factor. 5 is not a factor of 2. 10 is not a factor of 2. The greatest common factor is 2. 2 is a factor of 2, and 2 is a factor of 10. So 2 is our greatest common factor. Even though there's 2 factors listed here that are bigger than 2, they're not common factors because they're only factors of 10. They're not factors of 2. So 2 is what we need to divide by. So 2 divided by 2 equals 1. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So 2/10 reduced to lowest terms equals 1/5. It's the Mr. Camilleri Show. It's the Mr. Camilleri Show. Oh. It's the Mr. Camilleri. Mr. Camilleri. Mr. Camilleri Show. All right, next example. It's the Mr. Camilleri Show. It's the Mr. C. It's the Mr. Camilleri Show. Shout out to Mr. C. So 6/9, reducing 6/9 to lowest terms. So what we're going to do is we are going to divide by the greatest common factor. So we're dividing the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor to reduce the fraction 6/9 to lowest terms. So before we do that, I'm going to write all my factors of 6, write all my factors of 9, and then we're going to divide by the greatest common factor. So our factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. Our factors of 9 are 1, 3, and 9. And we have to select the greatest common factor. That's the biggest factor that both 6 and 9 have in common. So if we look at the common factors, we have 1, we have 3. Now, even though 9 is the biggest number here, 9 is not a factor of 6. Also, 6 is not a factor of 9. The greatest common factor is 3, so 3 is what we need to divide by. So we divide our numerator by 3. We divide our denominator by 3. Six divided by 3 equals 2. 9 divided by 3 equals 3. And 6/9 reduced to lowest terms equals 2/3. All right, moving on to the next example. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Please hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm. It's the Mr. Camilleri show. It's the Mr. C. It's the Mr. Camilleri show. Shout out to Mr. C. Shout out to everybody tuning in. Again, hit the like button. Helps the algorithm. Appreciate y'all being here. All right. 8/10. That is the next factor that we are going to reduce to lowest terms. So we have 8, we have 10. So I'm going to list all the factors of 8 and 10, then we are going to divide by the greatest common factor. So our factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8. Our factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, and 10. Now we have to divide by the greatest common factor. Notice how I did not say the greatest factor. I didn't say the greatest factor, the biggest number. I said the greatest common factor. Looking at the factors here, 10 is a factor of 10, but 10 is not a factor of 8. 8 is a factor of 8, but 8 is not a factor of 10. 4 is a factor of 8, but 4 is not a factor of 10. 5 is a factor of 10, but it's not a factor of 8. The greatest common factor between 8 and 10 is 2. So 2 is what we need to divide by. We need to divide the numerator and the denominator by 2 to reduce this fraction to lowest terms. So 8 divided by 2 and 10 divided by 2. Here we go. So 8 divided by 2 equals 4. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. So 8/10 reduced to lowest terms equals 4/5. All right, next example. It's the Mr. Camilleri show. It's the Mr. C. It's the Mr. Camilleri show. Shout out to Mr. C. All right, next example. Everybody tuning in, please hit the like button. Really helps the algorithm. Let's get the likes up. Next example, reducing fractions to the lowest terms. We're going to go with 15/20. So we're going to find the greatest common factor between 15 and 20. Then we're going to divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. So our factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. Our factors of 20 are 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. And we have to divide by the greatest common factor. Now, even though 20 is the biggest factor listed, 20 is not a common factor. 20 is not a factor of 15. 10 is not a factor of 15. 15 is not a factor of 20. The greatest common factor, the greatest factor that's common between 15 and 20 is 5. So 5 is what we need to divide by. So 15 divided by 5 equals 3. 20 divided by 5 equals 4. Let me make my 4 a little neater. Legibility matters. Legibility is important, everybody. Don't underestimate the power of neatness. All right. 15/20ths reduced to lowest terms equals 3/4. All right, that is my video for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. And if there is an area of math or reading that you're having difficulty with, put that in the comments and I will do a future video on that skill. Until next time, this is Mr. Camilleri signing off.